All right, so what we're going to start off with first is taking a look at the Saints offense and really isolating this down to a situation that I think is going to play a big role in determining who wins the game, or at least who has the best chance. So this is going to be 1st and 10 situations. A lot of them are at the beginning of a drive. I'm showing you this picture first because I'm illustrating that any play that begins at the -25, that's a 1st and 10, generally is at the beginning of a drive, right? The ball's been kicked in the end zone for a touchback. I'm going to show you some data first. I will refer to some of this data as I show the plays. I think I've got about 40 plays here for you. Right now, I think I've got 29 runs, 27 runs, and 13 pass on the 1st and 10s that I recorded. I think I'm actually only going to show you 30 of them, however. So pretty high % run, if you ask me. There's a couple of indicators for run that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. We will talk about Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara a lot in this portion of it. So let's get to the data first. This is against Arizona, so you can see the data that I have here of the plays that I'm going to show you. The drive number is all the way to the left. Generally all going to be 1st and 10. You can see the formation, the personnel formation data, run pass, etc. And the player over to the right. You can see a lot of big plays against Arizona. I see 4 chunk plays right there, 10 plays, 10 yards or more. And then what really could be a 5th, a 9-yard run, a 9-yard pass on a hitch to Smith. I think his name's Smith. He's a Z in that formation. It's pretty good numbers on 1st and 10 against Arizona, if you ask me. And that'll be what we go over first. I think that was week 7. And then the second set of data that I'm going to show you, there's actually obviously a mislabel here. That should not say Packers. Their week 6 game, I believe, was against the Bengals. So that's a mistake by me. But in any case, same data provided for you. The drive all the way over to the left, the down distance, personnel, etc. formation, the result concept. I didn't include the coverage in here. I will talk about some of the coverages that teams are playing against them that have failed and various reasons why. The player name all the way over to the right again. And again, even against the Bengals, look at 1st and 10. Now, you do have a 3rd and 4 in that I threw in there for a particular reason that I'll talk about for Ravens fans. Look at the gains on 1st and 10. A ton of chunk plays. I feel like the Ravens have to do a better job than these two teams did if they're going to hold this offense down. And I do think that this offense is really dangerous, even without Michael Thomas playing hardly at all. So there's the data. Again, I think I've got 27 runs, 13 pass in the 40 plays that I tracked. I'm only showing you 30 of them here. I'm not even really sure why I omitted 10 of them, to be honest with you. But let's get to the film. You're going to be a 1st and 10, first drive of the game. And what is Taysom Hill? We'll talk about him a little bit later, but here he's lined up as a receiver. There's a tight end to his side. It's twin slot. There's twins to the top side and slot to the bottom. Generally, you're going to get, when you've got twins to the field, you're going to get the nickel defender to that side. In this case, they end up with this tight end running this kind of like China in, whip, whatever route. And then Taysom Hill just taking the vertical, trying to occupy these two guys' attention. And it works. They get the tight end isolated on that linebacker. You can see Andy Dalton is reading that side of the field. Makes a quick decision. Boom. 6-yard gain. First drive still later on in the drive or near midfield. Zone kick concept. One of the things I'm going to talk about with the Saints and what they do on their play side run concepts is they take a receiver and they block the safety. It's not really a crack. It's just a pin to the inside to basically give the running back the option to bounce it outside of that block if they need to. So conceptually, you had the tight end go in motion. He's going to kick out the edge player. That's this guy right here. You can see he's kicked him out. All right. Now, the receiver who was tightly aligned is basically going to go create a seal trying to pin this safety inside. They're leaving the corner unblocked. All right. It's not anything revolutionary, just letting you know that's what they do. If Kamara is able to do anything underneath of this kickout block, you can see the wall that's been created, and the final part of that wall is the wide receiver pinning down that safety, who presumably is walking up into the box once he sees this motion by the tight end, which is basically creating a 3-by-1 to that side. It's going to be a consistent theme on some of these run plays that you see. 4-yard run by Kamara on what I call zone kick. Some people just call it split zone. All right, Taysom Hill in the backfield at quarterback. Andy Dalton up there at Z. This is the second drive against Arizona. It's a 1st and 10 from the -25. I believe this is the first play of that drive. 2 tight ends down to the bottom side. Hill at quarterback. Looks like zone read to me. It's a give. D-tackle beats a guy across his face. Easy tackle for loss on Ingram. And yet a linebacker there as well. When Taysom Hill's lined up at quarterback and you see any kind of mesh, you can pretty much, attack, especially if it's to his left. To his left, he's going to have a hard time kicking back, getting the ball and his right shoulder cleared back to, all the way to the other side of his body to be able to throw the ball. But the Ravens will have some pre-snap indicators, you would hope, in terms of attacking him. But I'll show you later on some plays of Taysom Hill throwing the ball. He's dangerous there too. Another twin slot. So same formation as what I showed you a couple plays ago. This tightly aligned receiver is going to go get some safety. You get a nice cutback by Kamara, leaving the corner unblocked. The corner is, maybe he's not interested in tackling, I'm not sure. But point being, the safety is taken care of by the tightly aligned receiver. Kamara cuts it back. Slick runner. Gains ground so fast. A couple of these runs you're going to see here in a moment. I mean, he picks up 10, 12 yards at a pop, immediately. This is 2 read versus twin. So here's the route combination you're going to see. And we'll talk about this a little bit, what this corner and the safety are doing. I call it 2 read. Other people have different names for it. The linebacker is responsible for the inside leverage of 2. So as Olave gets this stem here, this linebacker is going to stay on the inside leverage. He's not trying to let him cross his face. Simultaneous to that, the corner and the safety are just reading 2. A lot of people get confused by this. They'll call it like a trap. It's not a trap. It's a read. It's called 2 read. Other systems have different names for it. As soon as 2 goes out in this read, you can see the corner putting his foot in the ground. He's going to explode on the out now. Also key to this in terms of trying to figure out what the coverage is, if you're interested in these type things, is look at the safety. Watch his helmet. As soon as 2 makes that out cut, he goes to 1. The corner releases 1, and the safety is going to take over 1. Now, there's also something to be said for this is a tight end. So if you give us your best athlete in the slot, I shouldn't say your best athlete, but Olave is clearly a great athlete. If you give us a great athlete at receiver in the slot, and a less athletic guy in terms of not having as much speed, number 1, then we'll go ahead and play 2 read. Because now we can, quote, bracket 2 on the out. I think the linebacker's playing this way too soft as far as inside leverage. Easy completion, 10-yard gain to Olave. Dangerous guy. Dangerous guy on verticals. I'll show you some plays later on. Not dedicating an individual segment to Olave, but I really should because he is that dangerous. Inside zone run play to Kamara for 10 yards. Happens quick. Some of these D tackles for Arizona are getting taken care of. I don't mean to disrespect NFL players, because you never know when a guy's playing injured or anything like that. But you're certainly getting driven off the ball by this combo block here. It's getting stretched vertically. Blocked 4 yards downfield. The center worked up to the linebacker. Alvin Kamara is quick. He is ultra quick. This is a dangerous offense, if you ask me. Still the second drive, 1st and 10. Again, only showing you 1st and 10s. I believe the Ravens have to slow down the Saints on 1st and 10. Simultaneous to that, you got tightly aligned receiver. Watch what he does on the run concept. He goes and gets the safety. Similar, this is the mirrored version of what I showed you earlier. They're trying to set it up to where if Kamara cuts it back, he can go off that seal block by the corner getting the safety. Hopefully that makes sense. Still the second drive. 2nd and 10. F counter. Really, it's superpower. We would call this superpower. You got the guard, the fullback, and the H-back who went in motion. All leading. Little counter step by Kamara. He doesn't take much in the way of counter step. It's usually this drop step. Him and Ingram use a lot. 4-yard gain, 1st and 10. All right. moving forward in the game, third drive. Now you got Ingram in the game. 2 tightly aligned tight ends, and then here you've got Taysom Hill. Jill duo, if you ask me. Duo is a physical run play characterized by double teams at the point of attack. You got double team here, single block there. I would call this duo, but duo sometimes just looks like inside zone for real. Ingram for 5 yards. Great pickup for the Saints, man. He's such a tough guy, blocks well. You'll see it later on in the video. I'll show him blocking for Taysom Hill on a run concept. All right, one back power. Again, look, tightly aligned receiver. He's going to go get the safety. That linebacker is signaling that he's going to spill it, and he does, but the safety gets cut off by the receiver. Corner unblocked. Too slow coming up to run support. 10 yards for Kamara. He just seems like a guy who can do this in an instant. I mean, it's 1st and 10. Their personnel groups for real are going to be an issue, if you ask me. This is 11 personnel. You got 1 running back, 1 tight end. They're going to get a light box generally. 4-2 in the box, 4-2-5 nickel. And I think it causes problems for people. I'm a little worried about the Ravens' 11 personnel run fits against this team. All right, so an interesting thing that Ravens have talked about all year is these underneath routes. So this will be revealing for us as fans. You know, we've talked about 2-yard routes all year with Isaiah Likely and not throwing them a whole lot. We have occasionally. So a 2-yard route turns into an 8-yard gain against zone. It doesn't matter to me really whether, you know, who catches the ball, where they catch the ball. I just want to see the Ravens gain yards. And this, to me, is an example of using, you know, a vertical, a deeper out, and then an under to just create space for someone who maybe couldn't create that space for themselves against man-to-man coverage. It's a deeper zone, don't get me wrong. This is the 6th drive. You can see there's a lot of depth here by all these defenders, giving up the underneath, which doesn't always happen. My point is, sometimes a 2-yard route turns into an 8-yard gain. You take it. It's free money, if you ask me. All right, 8th drive, 1st and 10. They got 2 tight ends, and you'll see this a lot from the Saints. 2 tight ends, maybe even 3 in the game, and one of them may be lined up at fullback. The Ravens do this in a different way, right? We have a fullback, and he lines up at fullback, but occasionally lines up at tight end. Saints are the opposite. Little hitch screen. Just a hitch, actually. Free money. Quick passing game. Corners are just too far off. They're worried about the 2 tight ends and Kamara in the backfield, trying to get as many guys in the box as possible. Safety is pretty high, if you ask me, for being a 1st and 10. Too easy. 9 yards. This is a very dangerous concept that the Ravens have used before. We haven't seen a lot of it since like 2019 for real. Taysom Hill is on at fullback, and he's going to run a wheel. That's not the route I'm talking about. I'm talking about the second guy through. Now, this ends up being incomplete. I'll let you watch it a couple of times. So what I mean by this is, regardless of whether it's man or zone, the first guy through is Taysom Hill. Doesn't matter who it is, really. He's carrying someone with him. He's going to vacate. What it does is it vacates that area. And you can see what's happening is Alvin Kamara just follows him into that space. It ends up being incomplete. You've got a DB blitz, I think, off the edge. I think it's a DB. Beats the tight end on a little dip and rip. And gets to Andy Dalton. But you can see what's happening. Look at this leverage. That's man on Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara catches this football, you got a ton of space. It's a dangerous concept, and I show it to you, and I talk about it at length because they do it often. I've got 3 instances of it. Here's another one. This is not with Taysom Hill. Okay, it's Alvin Kamara, and he's going to follow this tight end who runs a wheel. Same route, just from a different place on the field. He's a slot tight end. This is one of the more widely used formations out of 11 personnel in the NFL or high-level college football. It's twin slot. Twins to the field, slot tight end here with an X receiver down the bottom side. And again, he's running a wheel, vacating all that space. Alvin Kamara runs on top of it. Simple, underneath concept. He's got a secondary route for Dalton to use late, which I think is Chris Olave. The reason I show you this is because the very next play is going to be pretty much the same concept, except they're going to change up the clear-out route. So second guy through. Ravens use it a lot in 2019 with people in motion. We don't use it that much now for whatever reason. Last play against Arizona, drive number 11. First and 10, 11 personnel. Twin slot, same exact formation I just showed you. Receivers are switched now. Okay, Olave's down the bottom side. And that's the route you're going to get. So it's not a follow. This time he's going opposite, and the running back is going to go out into the flats. It's basically a high-low created, and I think they're trying to get this route open. Watch how quick Andy Dalton gets rid of the ball. Regardless of what you think about Andy Dalton, he's just taking what's there. Maybe it was predetermined for him that he was going to Kamara. That's possible. But he's not even letting this route develop at all. Some would say he needs to let the route develop because that is the design of it. I don't think you get a real good clear-out route down here by Olave, to be honest with you. Looks like he's done playing football. Looks like he knows he's not getting the ball on this route particularly. But it's a quick decision by Andy Dalton, getting the ball out to Kamara. It's a little bit of a variation off of the follow concept. All right, against the Bengals, which the data I showed you had the wrong team there. It's this data here. All right, so this is just going to follow in order. I know it's a long preview today. You're welcome to let me know if you think it's too long. There's a random third down thrown in here. Maybe it's the 10th or 11th play. I like to show you the data because I'm not showing it on screen all the time. So this way you at least know that I am actually tracking the data. I'm not just full of crap and just throwing stuff out there to you. It's all tracked. Not every Saints play for the entire season, just the ones I'm showing you. So first and 10, first possession, negative 31-yard line, negative 32. Going to be a run play by Kamara. Great job by this inside linebacker, Logan Wilson. Stretch concept by Kamara. Flashes on the inside. You got to, in the old days, they used to say like about the big backs, like we got to make him stop his feet. We got to make him change direction, get him off his track. I think the same thing applies to Kamara. Even though he's not a big power back, I think you have to make him stop his feet. Stop his feet isn't the right word. There's a better word there. You got to get him off his track. All right, one pre-snap indicator you can look for, and I don't pretend to say that this is 100% true. This is just on the 75, 80 plays that I have in the database saved for the Saints offense. All right, somewhere around there. Number 18 in the slot, in a squared stance, flat stance. You can see his feet flat, parallel to the line of scrimmage. You can see his heels. Both heels, one of them is back a little bit. Both heels pretty much on the 35. Generally means run, and he's trying to insert to the C gap on the other side. The Rams run the same concept. Ironically, the Rams run it last year with a receiver who I think was number 18. Receiver / tight end hybrid type guy. I think 18's trying to get into the C gap here, but the DN to the side, which I think is Hendrickson, is in his 6 technique, squared up stance. You can see his hands ready to strike. So he's occupying that C gap. He's trying to get into that C gap. I think that's where the receiver 18 is trying to get as well. But in any case, Kamara still finds 7 yards up the middle. You'll see another instance of this later on. Again, the indicator is 18 in the slot, squared up stance. So let's show you his stance. Obviously at receiver. He's in the slot here, staggered stance. All right, going to talk about another player. I have no idea the health of him, but I like him. Traquan Smith. Been with the Saints for a while. I think he's got 17 career touchdowns. Maybe this is 18, or maybe this was number 17. This is man-to-man against Mike Hilton. Beats him easily. Touchdown. Saints offense was humming early on in this game. You can see that 18's run a clear-out route, taking this safety with him. I think that's Traquan Smith. At least I hope it is. I don't pretend to be completely familiar with their roster, but I did, go and look up certain guys. Easy touchdown catch for him. Talented guy, if you ask me. All right, again, run play for Kamara on 1st and 10. This is the third drive or third possession of the game. This time, Taysom Hill is in at quarterback. There is the other quarterback, which I think is Dalton, down here at the bottom side. So what do you call this personnel grouping? You got one receiver. You got two running backs. And then Taysom Hill. What the hell do you call it? Do you call it 13 or 12 personnel? 22, excuse me. Do you classify Hill as a tight end? 22 personnel? You classify him as a running back, then it's 31 personnel? Or do you just say Taysom Hill's on the field? Looks like a steal, QB counter read type situation, but there's no pulling lineman. So it's a give. Kamara for 12. 1st and 10, man, is where I think the Ravens defense has to shine. The runs into the boundary concern me. They are running into the boundary a lot, at least from what I can tell. A lot compared to other teams, let's say. I know that the hashes are tight in the NFL, so there's not as much space, to the boundary. Excuse me, not as much space to the field. All right, bunch right is going to be a formation we're going to talk about a lot. 3 or 4 times in the rest of this video. So, 3 receivers to the right. Watch the Z. He's going to basically chip this D end, which I think is Sam Hubbard. And that's going to clear this tight end getting out in the flats. It's a play action. To Ingram. Just a little semi-roll boot by Dalton. And again, they've picked Hubbard. They've caught the Bengals walking up. It's like a rope. They walked one inside linebacker up to an edge. All right. Moved the other inside linebacker over, and they brought Von Bell, extremely versatile player, into the box, creating like a 6-2. Did this against the Ravens many times. And they chip with the Z, so that basically makes Hubbard, keeps it really impossible for Hubbard to get out to the flats. The tight end beats him out there, 8-yard gain, 1st and 10. Designed play to use your personnel, get the ball to someone else besides Kamara, Hill, Olave, whatever receivers they have healthy that week. Great design. Ingram in, heavy wing. So heavy means 2 tight ends, 1 tight end there, another tight end there, and then a 3rd tight end. So I think 13 personnel. Under center, F counter. Hits them hard. Logan Wilson not really filling like I'm used to seeing him fill. He's waiting on something. I'm not sure what. Try to fill. Kick out block. Easy money. Maybe you got a hold here on the tight end. 14-yard gain by Ingram up the middle. That was the 4th drive. 1st and 10. Here's the 6th drive. 1st and 10. First drive, I think. All right, so here's that same formation I talked about 2 plays ago. Bunch right. Back up. Bunch. 3 receivers. Bunch alignment. Running back here. The last time we saw it, what we had was play action with the quarterback booting. Remember the Z chipped the end, which was Hubbard, and then ran a vertical, and then the inside guy just released easy into the flats, beat Hubbard. That's what's drawn up there. Now you've got the actual run play, the zone, which is basically just a complementary play to the one that they ran the first time, or 2 plays ago. So it's the same look. Running back to the weak side, quarterback with the handoff mesh, booting off of it. So it's just complementary plays. Well-designed offense. I think sometimes Ravens offense, we don't use the complementary plays enough. We'll go play action. Well, the Saints did it here. They lined up in this formation and went play action first, then showed you the run play second. So I guess it happens often, right? Offensive coordinators get ahead of themselves. All right, 5th possession, 1st and 10. This is the very next play to the one I showed you. Now Hill is at quarterback, and Dalton is down here as the Z. It's going to be another zone read. And who is here in a flat stance, parallel to the line of scrimmage, is a tight end. It's not number 18. But anytime you see this stance by one of their slots, in my opinion, you're looking at possibly getting this play. Now, there's a read element to it, too. Whether Hill is actually reading it or not sure. He could be reading this defender. He might not be. No idea. But the point is, you've got this slot tight end looping from the other side into the C gap. Trey Hendrickson getting upfield just a little bit, just enough to where Taysom Hill can cut it up inside. 31-yard gain. He's had some huge moments. We'll talk about Taysom Hill a little bit more in depth later on. 1st and 10, 6th drive, very next drive. Negative 25-yard line, so first play of the possession. Zone lead to Kamara, weak side. I say weak side, I mean opposite the tight end. Just trying to bully him. Tight end's here. This is a second tight end. So it's really not 21 personnel. It's a 21 personnel formation, but it's 12 personnel in terms of the grouping, and it's weak side. It's away from the other tight end. It's a lead play, meaning the fullback is taking you to the play. Just trying to bully ball you. 5 yards, first down. Same drive, you get a 3rd and 4. Again, you've got trips to one side. Now, here's the difference, though. Here's why I talk about the difference between A and B gun. You've got to the boundary, you've got B gun, which is away from the trips. You got the trips to the field, to the offense's left, and the back to the other side, the offense's right. You get a snag flat concept. So there's a snag flat concept. Look how quick Dalton makes this decision. Why? Because it's 3rd and 4. He knows that's all he needs. Look at the other routes that are there. All stops. Stop, stop, slow develop and stop. So they're just trying to get the first down, right? Ravens run this concept. Snag flat a lot. We run it to the backside. We run it with motion. Everybody runs it. Outside receiver running a hook, angled hook. Inside receiver running to the flats. All right, 0-yard run by Kamara on the 1st and 10. Same drive. Very next play, I think, actually. Watch how smart the Bengals defense is. So you may say, well, Coach, what are you talking about? All right, this safety's walking up to the field. That has a trickle-down effect. Here's the effect that it has. They're able to slide these linebackers over. They're actually already slid over. Why? They got hit by zone to the weak side already. So what they're doing now is they're slamming Hubbard into the B gap, and that allows this linebacker to fold over the top. Just a gap exchange. The dangerous part about this, though, is because of the Saints' propensity to take a tightly aligned receiver and go get a safety, he may pick up that gap exchanging inside linebacker. It's one of the things that kind of scares you sometimes about running those gap exchanges, those stunts, but look how easily Hubbard cleared that block by the tackle. That tackle is stepping on his track where he expects Hubbard to be, and he's just not there. Tackle for loss. All right, what 0-yard gain? They're doing that. They're doing that because they've. Well, excuse me. The way that they are managing that is they're widening this will linebacker up, moving the mic over, and then walking the safety down to the field. My contention is anytime you see an inline tight end, I think they're more run-centered. Tight end, 3-point stance. Makes sense, right? Those are some of my indicators there for run. I don't pretend to be 100% sure on them. Inline tight end, quarterback under center, 1st and 10. You know, again, you saw the data, or you heard the data. 27 runs out of 40 total plays on 1st and 10. Hendrickson was doing this a lot. This is power week. Hits him hard. Ingram for 12. Couple of things to say about it. We'll let it run one more time. This is number 18. Receiver, I have said, I think is somewhat of an indicator in terms of run. He's tightly aligned. Who's he going to get? The safety. Hendrickson's getting upfield a little bit. Ingram is able to wind it underneath, behind the pulling guard. Big gain, 12 yards. Who they leave on block? The corner. So just magically creating an 8-man front isn't how you stop the run. You know, there's still, you can't get upfield as the D. And hey, Trey Hendrickson's one of the best players in the league, if you ask me. But in this game, he got upfield a lot, and it hurt him against the run. Now, they ended up pulling out the win 30-26. Great job, though, of mitigating an 8-man front by the defense, cracking or pinning down on the play side safety. Actually left 2 inside linebackers unblocked. Couple more plays here. You got a smash concept. This weird little sprint out to the right. It's a bad snap. So they're going sprint out and then slide protection backside of it. Normally, sprint out has the running back on the right, leading to the right. In this case, he's blocking the backside D end, Hendrickson. And they're slide proing. They're running everybody out to the field. Dalton's unable to get this off. Really not a great route by this number 2 receiver. This is something I've seen enough to say to you, I wonder how often this happens, but I don't know. But I showed you one from Olave earlier that was a really lazy clear out route, and this one by number 10 also I think is a pretty lazy route. If it's not lazy, it's one where he's not running full speed. He doesn't look like he's getting the ball. Now, this guy's busting it across the field. Looks like he's trying to get the ball. So, maybe it's not nearly as much of an issue as I've pointed out twice, but I've seen it enough beyond just these 2 plays I pointed out to wonder how much of an issue it is. Bengals play a lot of nickel, and so the way they handle stack twins, they've got the nickel lined up over there, and then they've got the corner. Fine, and the free safety is basically splitting the difference between the tackle and the number 2 receiver. Maybe a little bit closer to the tackle. How do the Ravens handle this? And what I mean is, out of 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, are we going to be in our base or are we going to be in our nickel? Ravens are generally going to be in their base. So this stack twins, to me, looks like it could be an issue in terms of us, them screening us, running a little hitch screen. I think this is a check with me type situation. Dalton was looking out over here long enough to try to figure out if he wanted to throw something. Mike Hilton being lined up there, let him know, hey, I don't have numbers. I can't just throw the hitch out there. I wonder about the Ravens defending that. We better be prepared for it, especially with a guy like Olave out there. Split zone concept. This is the same formation I've talked about ad nauseum. The first one, now it's opposite to what you have here, okay, was running back weak side, quarterback booting, the Z chipping Hubbard, and then going vertical, and then the tight end running free out into the flats. All right. The second one was inside zone to the weak side, so they actually gave it to the running back. All right. Now here you see a third part of the third complementary play. Split zone. So the slot is cutting down, chopping down the backside DN, which I think is Sample. And then they're running the zone to the left. Kamara's just cutting it back. Again, he's so quick. 7 yards right up the middle. Dangerous offense, if you ask me, guys. You probably didn't come here to hear me say this on a Saturday morning, but I really think this Saints offense threatens the Ravens, specifically in some ways that the Ravens appear to be weak at times. 11 personnel run fits, quick screens, which I've shown you some of them, and I'll show you some more of Taysom Hill throwing quick screens when he's at quarterback, and then him catching one against Arizona for a touchdown. 11 personnel run fits, quick hitters, and then the piece that I haven't covered here that I don't know that I'll cover in video form is really them putting Olave, who's a big play guy, in the slot and threatening our slot defenders, who, if you ask me, are our weakest point in terms of our pass coverage. One of the elements that's got to be talked about in terms of the Ravens-Saints Monday Night Football matchup is Taysom Hill. And what is he? If you're a Saints fan or someone who watches that team often, you probably have a better idea than some of us that are Ravens fans and really only get to see a guy like Taysom Hill once every 3, 4, 5 years or something like that, or maybe see some highlights. I think he's everything. I think, to me, the best analogy, or the one that my brain can come up with, is NBA's sixth man, maybe seventh man, a streak shooter who once every 3, 4, 5 games, in the NBA at least, can come in and give you 20, 22, 24 points, where maybe he only averages 10. Now, that may sound disrespectful towards Taysom Hill's talent, because look at the resume. I mean, regardless of what you think about how predictable they might be in certain backfield alignments when Taysom Hill is on the field, he's contributed a lot to the Saints. I mean, 1,500 career rushing yards, 29 career touchdowns scored. That's rushing and receiving. Also thrown 9 touchdown passes. We know he had 4 games last year, maybe 5 in 2021, kind of like semi-auditions split up into two separate time periods, I believe, as a potential starting quarterback or actual starter. The Saints did not go that route. They got Jameis Winston. They signed Andy Dalton, who has now played a lot of the reps because of injury. I liked watching the guy play. I mean, as a Ravens fan, he's dangerous. He scares me, to be honest with you, in terms of how he can contribute. We're going to show you 12, 14 plays kind of packaged together by technique or what they're asking him to do or how they're utilizing him. I think every team needs a Taysom Hill. For real, I do. I just don't know how many of them there are. A guy who can play quarterback with that level of athleticism, a guy who can play quarterback at the Division I level. Let's say it that way, and then can contribute something toward an NFL team at quarterback once teams kind of over adjust to the run threat. Am I saying that every team needs a Taysom Hill to be a starting quarterback? No. But if you have a guy who's willing to play on special teams, at least early in his career, right? Play some running back or H-back, tight end. At one point, I know he was listed as a tight end on the roster. I didn't even look, to be honest with you, what he was listed as now, just because I found it so interesting, the ways that they're using him. So let's get into some of the film, and then you guys let me know what you think of his game and how they utilize him if you're a Ravens fan. If you're a Saints fan with a little bit more knowledge and experience watching him, let us know what your perspective is. I have to think it's fun, to be honest with you, watching the guy play every week, seeing how they're going to use him. I would imagine there might be some people who are a little tired of some of the same concepts being used. I think they're creative, though. So this is Taysom Hill against Seattle. An empty formation. It's 13 personnel. So they got 2 tight ends up top and a third one down here. I call this Y split. This is the exact same pass play the Ravens run with Mark Andrews. The Saints know that it's zone because Tariq Woolen, their all-everything corner, is down here lined up over Alvin Kamara, and no one moves on the motion. So they know that it's zone. Taysom Hill knows where he's going with the football. They've isolated this read for him, if you ask me. If someone had went, with the tight end in motion, they would get a pretty good indication that it was man, but I think Taysom Hill knew that wasn't going to happen. As soon as he saw Tariq Woolen lined up over Kamara, knew that it was zone, attacked the middle of the field in what looks like a cover 2 to me. Also looks like he possibly has this guy running up the right sideline. Ravens run this exact same concept. They ran it against the Colts in 2020. They ran it this year multiple times. They ran it against Washington in 2020 for a touchdown. It's an easy, I don't want to say easy. For an NFL quarterback, this is an easy read, okay? Could Taysom Hill sit there and read, 20, 25, 30 pass plays per game? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not saying he couldn't, but I'm just showing you this one. This one's pretty impressive if you ask me. Pretty impressive throw, wide open tight end. You can see what I mean by split. One guy running up inside the hash. The other tight end, released pretty much to the bottom of the numbers. And then the tight end who went in motion went all the way out wide like a wheel. I picked that one intentionally to show you because it was a pass play. You get a somewhat similar concept down here between these 2 tight ends. They basically split. I can't really draw more width to show you more accurate routes because I only have so much screen to deal with down there at the bottom. And then you got Olave in the slot now. So a little bit of a variation because he's going to run a dig onto that open space where the vertical by the tight end kind of vacated it. Just bringing it down here in the middle of the field. Tight end's holding the safety on this side. Nice throw by Taysom Hill. When I say he scares me, what I mean is he can contribute in a way that a 6th man does in the NFL. That's why I made that analogy. Your defense is stopping their starting 5 for the first 6-7 minutes of the game, and all of a sudden this 6th man, the streak shooter, comes in, and he can get them 3 or 4 buckets quick where you've been stopping them. I think of like a Jamal Crawford, even though that, don't want it to sound disrespectful towards Jamal Crawford because he certainly played at a high level consistently game by game, whereas Taysom Hill's impact to me appears to be a little bit more spread out across a 3 or 4 game spectrum. Whereas he's not having a great impact every game. It's week 1, then week 4, week 7. I'm talking in generalities across his career. All right, this is a stacked bunch by the Saints. And a real quick hitch by Taysom Hill out to Kamara. Dangerous play. As Ravens fans, this just shows you there's a lot of people who don't know how to defend empty, or maybe they did at one time and they forgot, because just do the math here. Just count. You got a corner, you got a safety. Say this is a nickel, whatever he is. He's blitzing. Once the ball's caught, to my eyes, I see 3-on-2. In fact, right now it's 3-on-1 with a safety recovering and then an inside linebacker at depth dropping with no angle to help out. That's a 3-on-2. No matter how you cut it, maybe worse. And Arizona created that by their blitz, their nickel blitz. The Ravens do some of the same stuff. All right, another hitch to Kamara out of empty to the right generally. Haven't seen this to the left. So if you get Taysom Hill at quarterback, and obviously if there's only one receiver down here, it doesn't look like they're attacking to that side, especially if it's a quarterback. In this case, it's not. Sometimes they keep the quarterback on the field, whether it's Winston or Dalton. Sometimes they don't. If you get 3 receivers or 4 to the right, an empty formation with Taysom Hill in the backfield, you can pretty much assume that it's a screen or a hitch screen, like I call it in the database. All right, now, a touchdown catch against Arizona. He's not at quarterback. He's actually the guy catching the little hitch screen or bubble screen. Got the strength to run post-catch and either make people miss with a stiff arm, run through tackles, get into the end zone. Really versatile player. As someone who only gets to watch, I did a video of him last year calling him the anomaly. An anomaly meaning someone that kind of doesn't fit within all the other rules that everyone else has to abide by. I wonder what their practice schedule looks like. I wish I had the opportunity, the money, and the time to go, and permission to go watch some of these teams practice, because I would love to see what Taysom Hill's practice schedule looks like. I have said, for years as a Ravens fan that I think Lamar Jackson's practice schedule must be incredibly busy because all the things they ask him to do consistently on every snap. Taysom Hill's not in the same boat at all in terms of how often he's asked to execute techniques, but it is a wide range of things they ask him to do. You saw him throwing some passes this year. I didn't show you any film, pre-2022. You saw him catch a hitch or bubble screen for a touchdown against Arizona, and now you're going to see him running the football down people's throats. QB power for 47 yards against Arizona. I don't know what personnel grouping to call this. I do know that the Saints block this up well, consistently across years. They block this up well. Against Atlanta in week 1, tight ends motioning and then releasing inside. That is somewhat unique. I think this is gamesmanship that's being taught to the tight end here. I'm talking about 83, telling him to hold on, and then put his foot in the ground and come downhill, release inside, create a wall. You can see the 2 tight ends have created a wall. You've got the kick-out block by the fullback, just your classic power. Kick-out block by the fullback on what presumably number 3 is an edge defender. The left guard wrapping up on a DB, and that's it. They're lucky this isn't over. And he's athletic enough to make people miss, even at age 32. I think it surprises people who don't deal with him twice a year, the level of athleticism that he has. At least that's what it looks like to me. Same run from the end zone angle, so you're going to see how they block this. The guy's going to come in motion, and then him and the other tight end are going to basically create a wall. You'll see it somewhere in this area here, and the pulling left guard goes and gets the safety, 24 or nickel DB. There's the wall that's been created here. Kick out block, pulling guard. This can happen against you. One of the things that I think is interesting about their runs with Taysom Hill, a lot of them are going to the boundary. So they're kind of going against some of the widely accepted views that your nickel defender has to go to the field, because they're kind of trying to attack you to the boundary where maybe you have one less defender. Hopefully that makes sense. This one's actually to the field, and there is a quarterback on the field. Like I said, week 1, so Jameis Winston's on the field. How do you classify Taysom Hill personnel-wise? Is he a running back? Is he a tight end? And now you guys don't see the information. I have the information off screen to you guys up at the top. I have it listed as 22 personnel, but I don't know what the heck it is. I know there's a quarterback on the field, Jameis Winston. And I know that in this case, they're classifying this guy as a running back post-snap, post-huddle. I think he's got a fullback number. Anyway, another power play. You can see the kick-out block, the pulling guard. Taysom Hill follows him, tries to spin out of a tackle unsuccessfully. I don't know exactly what the Ravens are going to do once he's on the field. When the fullback is to his right, you should be fired up to stop power to the right. But I'll show you a play here in a moment where he kind of delays, The fullback goes to the other side, and they run it in the other direction. Short yardage. To me, at minimum, he looks like a great short yardage option for them. I mean, Alvin Kamara is a great running back, so he would be a fantastic option as well. Sometimes they got them both on the field together. I showed you a hitch earlier on. Kamara rolling out on motion. QB power for a touchdown. Fullback or tight end to his right. That's your indicator. There's the fullback or tight end with the kick-out block. Let this go in slow motion so you can see the kick-out block. Pulling left guard. Wrapping up. And then Taysom Hill is he's got good vision. You can't classify it any other way. I'm going to show you one here against the Raiders that illustrates the vision. Now, this is all 22 angle film, generally. So you're not necessarily seeing the vision, the cutback, but you can see that he cuts it back off of pursuing a D lineman that slides off a down block. I think he's got pretty good vision for a guy who has to spend some time with the quarterbacks, right, to throw the football, to take snaps in the gun at least. He's got to spend time catching the football. Actually, I do give you the end zone angle here. This is going to be the D tackle that he cuts this back off of. He slides off of this down block by the right tackle. I mean, regardless of how you put it, there's guys who are normally able to tackle a quarterback, but they're not able to do it with Taysom Hill because he's not really a quarterback. I mean, let's be honest. That's not said in a disrespectful way. He's an athlete who plays quarterback. I would say it's kind of like a college usage of a player in that you have that guy that comes to school who is an athlete, a pure athlete. You want to get him the ball 6-8 times a game. So you line him up at quarterback some because he has a little bit of that ability. And if you're a Saints fan or anyone else, that's not meant to be disrespectful at all. Hopefully you can tell by the sound of my voice, I'm actually really impressed with how they use him and kind of blown away that other teams haven't jumped on this train for real. Who are those guys, though? Who are they that are willing to be an X factor and not get consistent touches and just be happy with being on the roster and getting their opportunity? I don't know. I think he's got to have a tremendous amount of confidence. And it seems like they have a lot of confidence in him because they use him in a lot of short yardages. I think this is a 3rd and 1 against the Raiders. He's the only quarterback on the field, so Winston. Dalton's not on the field. It's QB sweep. They trust him. He's following Mark Ingram here around the edge. It's like a pin pull. It's a difficult proposition to stop when they're willing to run this, into the boundary where the bunch formation is and the running back is. So again, generally his runs are to the right. And his throws appear to be to the right as well. At least his hitch throws, his little bubble screen throws. Same formation, bunch to the right, back on that side. You guys know if you listen to my channel a lot, I call it bunch right A-gun. Sweep, pin, pull, dynamic. They block this up incredibly well. I think I did a One Play Wednesday video of this. This is the lineman I really want to focus on here. It's the center, 78, I think. Getting out here, going to get the linebacker. Staying on him. That's the last guy with the ability to get there. Look, I mean, your center is in the end zone blocking someone. Now, let's pull this back a little bit. I said it's pin pull. Watch the right tackle pull. 71. So there's the pin by the tight end. So he's just pinning someone in this direction. 71 pulls, got nobody, got no works, got a D lineman, picks him up. So I'm talking about this guy right here. Spectacular job. They block well. If you're a Ravens fan, you should be concerned about how well this team blocks. They appear to be very unselfish to me, at least on these plays that I'm highlighting here. Same play, end zone angle. So you're going to see the center go and get 54 into the end zone. And then, again, you're going to see the pull by the right tackle. He's going to pick up, I think, this backside D tackle trying to pursue. Cool play. feel like everybody should have this in their playbook with someone on their team. But there's very few guys who have quarterback skills, can run the ball like this. I mean, he takes a shot at the end, but I think he's done playing football. There's the right tackle looking for work. Watch him go and get this D tackle on the backside, who's coming from the backside, I should say. And then Mark Ingram. I mean, what can you say about Mark Ingram? Unselfish, just a winner. And we know that from being Ravens fans and having him in Baltimore for a while. Beautiful play. They do a whole lot with him. He actually returned 3 kickoffs against, I think, Seattle. 69 yards on 3 returns in that game. Athletic guy. The one knock, and you kind of see it right there, that I would say, besides the failed experiment to have him play quarterback last year, is he's got 14 career fumbles. I think it's 14. It might be 16. So that's a lot with his limited touches. Over the course of his entire career. He's 32 years old. Had a lot of injury problems in college, and I think probably influenced his ability to get chances at the NFL level. So maybe that's what made him more likely to accept this role. He could have been someone who would enjoy this role anyway. I think that there are a lot of athletes of his caliber who would not accept this role because they would want more. And I understand that. I do. I think it is an interesting way to attack defenses, to give them something else they have to prepare for. The Ravens had to prepare for Taysom Hill being in the game and then identifying where he is. So that does impact their planning. How much? Does it impact it 5%, 8%, 10%? I'd say 8% is my guess. You may have a different opinion. If you're a Ravens fan, you may think it only impacted 2%. If you're a Saints fan, maybe you think it impacted the defensive planning, 20%. I'd say 8%, somewhere around there. It's a thing you have to deal with, you have to prepare for, and you have to break down the tendencies. I don't have all of the tendencies, but I think I showed you some. Bunch right A generally looks like QB sweep. An inline tight end, meaning a tight end who's lined up in a 3-point stance next to the right tackle, and a fullback to Taysom Hill's right, generally looks like QB power, not QB sweep. When that tight end is backed off the line, like that bunch, or he's widened up a little bit, to me that he's widened up so he can pin down on the D end, and they can run the QB sweep with the pin-pull technique I showed you. You got 2 tight ends there. That appears to be one of their pass plays, the little Y split. Because the first one I showed you, the touchdown up the middle of the field, was 2 tight ends to the right. One up the inside guy on the line, the outside guy off the line. And then the third tight end came in motion, and he hit the vertical up the seam for a touchdown. Then the next play I showed you, I think against Arizona, the slot catch by Olave. There was 2 tight ends to the right. One of them on the line as an inline tight end next to the right tackle. That was the inside guy. The outside guy was off the line as a wing. And they ran the Y split. And Olave ran the dig. So look for some of those things during the game if you're interested in pre-snap information. And I can't be right about all of those things. Obviously, I don't have time to watch every Saints snap. I wish I did. Maybe someday. But let me know what you think of my breakdown, what you think of some of the tendencies that I offered. The one drawback, well, I guess there's more, but the one verifiable drawback is that ball security seems to be an issue. Is that an issue with Taysom Hill, the player, or is that an issue because he spends so much time on so many different techniques that he doesn't get to spend as much time ball security drills with just the running backs? Because if he was just a running back, he would be doing ball security drills, well, in pretty much every drill he does, right? So let me know what you think of my thoughts, what you think of this part of the preview for the Ravens' visit to New Orleans on Monday night.